So welcome to the Let's Decide Together launch party. I'm really excited to be here and share this with you. It's been a long time coming. Like I just said, for the agenda today, we started with check-in. I'll do an overview of the book and kind of the background on the book, a little mini presentation. Then we'll do a workshop together and end with Q&A and checkout. So a little bit more about me. I'm the founder of Pathfinder Community School, which was a school using sociocracy with children, staff, and parents. It closed due to COVID, which is really sad, but it's also kind of launched me into a different sphere supporting schools using sociocracy. I'm currently the Sociocracy in Schools program manager at SOFA, and I'm a consultant and trainer for using sociocracy with children. I live in Durham, North Carolina in the US, and you can learn more about me at my website, hopewildertraining.com. So starting out with the why am I here? Why sociocracy with children? And what I've seen is kids growing into confidence as their voices are heard, especially quiet children who might not be used to speaking up, learn to find their voice. I've seen empowerment and a greater sense of agency, which is so important for mental health, physical health, to feel like you have power over things that are important to you in your life. And I've seen conflict turn into curiosity. And this is one of my favorite things. Seeing problems turn into problem solving is just a magical experience instead of having dead end conflicts that don't seem to go anywhere. In the larger context, I'm an advocate for children's rights and children's empowerment globally, including political rights. If you don't know about the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, it's really great and involves children's rights in deciding about their education, their families, and other things that are important to them. And like Ted was saying, I want to build a better future where consent decision-making is the norm and people are used to egalitarian structures where their voices matter. Some of the outcomes that I expect if you use these methods is to go from arguing about chores or noise or other problems at home and school and youth groups, things like that, to problem solving together. I expect going from top-down decisions to bottom-up decisions that empower children. And I expect for authoritarian structures to shift to egalitarian structures, because sometimes we just fall back on the default of how we were raised or how we were taught because we don't know an alternative that works. And the end result that I've seen is more harmonious, authentic relationships between adults and children. And I hope that's something you can experience too. Then I often get the question, why did I write the book? And I say, why not? It's really the book that I wish I had when I started Pathfinder. Just like a nuts and bolts approach of what works. What's out there already is lots of resources for adults, but not so much for younger kids especially. And I want to spread these ideas more widely and empower children everywhere. I feel like that's part of my life mission. And because Ted asked me to, one day Ted was like, hey, you have all this experience with sociocracy and children. Why don't you write a book? And I was like, okay. I was like, I'll bang this out in a weekend. And then like, I don't know, 8-9 months later, it's like still putting the finishing touches. But now it's done, yay. Now I'm gonna jump into the book content, a little sneak peek. So the purpose of the book is to be an introduction to practicing collaborative decision-making using sociocracy specifically with children. And it's a very practical workbook. It will be 8.5 by 11, so it's easy to photocopy all the abundant agendas, worksheets, and other fun stuff that's in there. It's for use in families and schools and aftercares, summer camps, youth groups, everywhere where children and adults are together and adults want to help empower children to be included in decision-making. And since it comes from my experience in the school, it's chock full of stories and real life examples, also from families and people at other schools and groups who I've met using sociocracy with children. Inside the book, there are practical tools to practice sociocracy with children, including, to start out with, what are you going to decide about together? Tips and tricks for successful meetings with kids. The tricks also work with adults, so try that out. There are 7 meeting agendas, 3 cheat sheets, 5 worksheets, and a lot of additional resources online that are accessible if you get the book, including printouts and videos and fun stuff like that. And here's a little sneak peek of a meeting agenda. I don't know if you can see my screen, but I can show you. Look, here's the book. Whoa, look at all those pages and pictures and diagrams and stuff. Okay, that was your sneak peek. Now you have to go buy it. Ha 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 ha. And the meetings all have the same format. The first one goes over rounds and agreements, and each meeting kind of builds on the next meeting, trying to keep things within 15 minutes to half an hour and just having one concept at a time. The meetings can even be shortened. If you're in a family, you can just do like the middle part of the meeting and skip the beginning and the end. So it's really flexible, and you can use it how it makes most sense to you. Best of all, this book is kid approved. My favorite review that's come out of it is, I like that everybody gets to agree, not just some people, which, what a scathing indictment of majoritarian rule this is, from Kira, who is age 8. So I like this as a summary of consent decision making. Next, I'm going to jump into a little bit of background about sociocracy with children, and then go deeper into the content. So some of you haven't practiced sociocracy before at all, and some of you are experienced sociocracy practitioners. So I'm going to try to do kind of a middle ground here. Sociocracy, one definition, is a collection of participatory tools that ensure shared power. And that's from the great book, Many Voices, One Song by Ted and Jerry from SOFA. And another quote that I really like is, "It's democracy as it could be." And that's from Case Boca, who's the founder of, one of the founders, you could claim, of sociocracy. And Case founded a school called the Werkplaats Kindergemeenschap in the Netherlands in 1926. It's operating in the present, but they no longer use sociocracy with children. However, I know of about 50 schools who use sociocracy with children worldwide, and I'm adding to the list. Like, I added 3 schools this week, so people are always coming out of the woodwork telling me like, hey, we're using sociocracy in our school, and I'm sure there's some more that we don't even know about. Another context, larger than the family, larger than the school, is the Neighborhood's Children's Parliament movement in India, which is a child-led federation that connects thousands of children, and they're all under ages of 18. They follow the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and within their groups, they select ministers who focus on problem solving in their communities. So they identify problems in their communities and either advocate for change or take direct action. Everything from sanitation to founding libraries, including students with disabilities in schools, and they're really amazing. And they use sociocracy, so it's a great example to know about. And if you want to learn more about these contexts of sociocracy in schools or the children's parliaments, I recommend these 2 movies. And if you can put those links in the chat. Ted, do you need me to leave the slide up for a minute? Now I'm going to jump into, let's get started. If you want to practice sociocracy with children, here's the ingredients that you need. You need a group of children, obviously. An idea of what you're going to do together, because sociocracy isn't really an end in and of itself. It's a tool that you use to do stuff, and a tool you use to decide things. So you need to know, what are you going to decide about? And then you'll need some sociocracy resources, like my book, like the SOFA website. There's an excellent sociocracy with children website still being improved. And so the first thing is to decide what you will decide about. And the question is, what can you really truly give children complete control over? And this can be kind of scary. Sharing power can be really scary. At the same time, you want to know in what context you want a voice for consent as the adult, as the person convening the group, and then what remains within the adult's domain. So an example might be in a school that is following state curriculum. The curriculum is not in the student's domain. It's not even in the teacher's domain. It's in the state's domain. But some aspects of how you enforce the curriculum can be tweaked with, like how to do a learning project that meets the curricular needs could be in the student's hands. Another example is safety. Usually adults are in charge of safety and legal decisions. In a family, this is like, don't climb that rock, it's too high. In a school, it might be, we can't get a trampoline because our liability insurance will not cover that. I speak from experience. So things like that, you might want to keep in your domain. Easy examples for families and schools, a room or common areas. At Pathfinder, we had like an art room domain, a garden domain, a weekly meal. I've seen both in families and schools getting together to make a meal and decide what to eat, shopping for it, things like that. How to distribute chores. In a school, I've seen it used in clubs, governing how to govern a club about a specific topic for specific learning projects and planning an event, like the kids planning their own prom, which is super cool. Just giving them a budget and saying, okay, you plan the prom. And a discretionary budget. At Pathfinder, we gave the kids $200 a month, and they could spend it on whatever they wanted. And yes, they bought candy and also pillows and foam swords and lots of fun stuff, including they also bought supplies for classes and things like that. So sometimes they were responsible and sometimes it was just for fun. And in the meantime, they learned about math and how to make decisions together. So time for you in the chat. I'm curious if there are children in your life with whom you want to practice sociocracy. Like what context is that? A lot of you answered already, whether it's in families or a youth group or something like that. And if so, what domains do you think are possible with your group? And I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can see the chat. And I might read some for the recording. I'm a scout leader, already a scout lead, but I feel like this will empower them to properly lead. Starting a backyard chicken flock, the domain of how to spend our weekend. How many arguments have you had about that? I use sociocracy a lot to decide what to eat. Like, any objections to chicken tonight? To develop family holiday projects with nieces and nephews. Learning projects with secondary school students. Awesome. Bedtime. Oh, and I like the budget idea. I work in a school and would love to see how a child-led budget would go. It's really interesting. I've seen it in high schools too. So kids, even having a budget for improvements to their school can be really interesting. A course that people are studying, feedback, improvements, and how to work together as a group. An online self-directed education school. Domains inside a school being veggie garden, learning space, social space, and would also like to try participatory budgeting. Cool. I'm going to go back to the presentation, but keep posting in the chat. This is super interesting. The next thing we're going to do is start using some tools from the book. And these are not entirely unique tools, but there's at least one we're going to use that you probably won't hear about anywhere else. All right, on to tools from the book, a mini workshop. So if you're familiar with consent decision-making, there are a lot of ways to expand it. And in the book, I go over kind of how to make more complicated decisions. But for simple, quick decisions, I like to use thumbs consent. That's if somebody comes up with a proposal, you ask, are you okay with this decision? Is it good enough for now? Is it safe enough to try? and then do a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Some advantages of thumbs consent is that everybody does it at the same time. And so you can see everyone's answers. Thumbs up being I like it, thumbs sideways being I'm okay with it, I consent to it, and thumbs down being I see a problem with it, or I have an objection. So for an objection, you need to give a reason, and those reasons are harvested to make the proposal better, to make it work for everyone. An example would be, I want to go out to eat tonight, let's get pizza, any objections? And somebody could object saying, I am gluten-free. Another person could say I'm vegan. You could resolve that objection by either saying, well, let's get Chinese food instead. Does anyone object? Or you could say, I know a place that has vegan and gluten-free options. Would that be okay? So there's lots of ways to resolve objections and make it so that everybody can consent. We're going to jump into using consent decision-making with a change-up meeting. And this comes from Agile Learning Centers who are inspired by Agile management. And it's also inspired by Sociocracy 3.0 driver statements about what's happening or what's needed. And then the nonviolent communication centered framework of needs, just human needs. And I've tweaked this process to make it more sociocratic, basically. So step one is what's happening. In this example, in the domain of an art room, people are leaving paint on the paintbrushes. And when you're looking at what's happening, you announce it together with the whole group in a change-up meeting, and it could be problems or opportunities. It could also be, our art room wall would be a lot more beautiful if there was a mural on it. And you might want to talk about a proposal for that opportunity. The second step is to identify needs. And these could be group needs or individual needs. So everyone needs to be able to use the shared paintbrushes. If they're all crusty and dirty, they're broken, you can't use them anymore. Then the third step is to make proposals. I like to go into breakout groups of 5 to 7 people. If you're working in a large group, if you're in a small group, just work within that group, the whole group, and to go in rounds for ideas. So this is kind of the part where you shape the proposal. Rounds are just each person taking a turn in a circle and saying, here's my idea for how to solve this problem. As facilitator, usually adults start out as the facilitator, and then you can train kids to facilitate, but they need to see it modeled first. So the facilitator tunes the proposal. That just means, it could mean just making a list of all the ideas and writing them down. Or it could be listening and kind of trying to synthesize the proposal into something that includes all of the ideas, but still makes sense. I like to try to fit it on 1 to 2 sticky notes. It's a challenge, but it keeps things short and simple. Then you ask for consent and just do a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, work through any objections and amend the proposal to make it work for everybody. So in this example, everyone must be trained in how to wash the paintbrushes properly. The next step is questions for evaluation, because this is something you're going to try out. It's good enough for now. It's safe enough to try. You're trying it for a limited period of time. It's not going to last forever. And what you need is some questions to evaluate how it's going. So the questions, let me see, facilitator can come up with them and write them down. Kids can also come up with them. You'll answer the questions at the next check-in, and the questions can be built around, are people's needs being met? Is the problem actually being solved? And are concerns people have happening? So in this example, a concern could be people will make more of a mess and they'll spill water all over the floor when they're washing the brushes because they're too little to reach the sink. And you could just write that down. Is water all over the floor? Would be addressing that concern. Is everyone able to use the brushes? Addresses the need. And then are they clean? Is the problem being solved? The last step is to try it out. Then you check in next time to see how it's going, rinse, repeat. And now I want to know if you have any questions for me before we jump into practicing this and doing a change-up meeting right now. Questions can go in the chat, They could go wherever. You could unmute. All right, who is able to or in charge of initiating a change-up meeting? Very good question. That's a group decision you could make. So I like to have change-up meetings at a regular interval. For a group like a family, like a week, once a week might be good. If you're only meeting once a week, it might be good to do it once a month or so, but how frequently you meet would be up to the group. When you meet would be up to the group, and you would consent to that. Like, we do this Wednesdays at 10 o'clock in the morning. Does that work for everybody? I'm curious if you have any input on ages or developmental stages when to start using these processes. I've used it with ages 5 to 14. I think that 4-year-olds are a little bit antsy. They could do it. Thumbs consent definitely works with age 4. The kind of physical aspect of it is really easy for them to pick up. And then how do you encourage group listening skills and engagement in circles? We pass a talking object. So the talking object is just something you have handy that people can hold without doing anything destructive. I don't recommend a ball. I do recommend like squishy things, squishy toys. We had a talking toilet one time. That was really funny. It could be a smooth rock. It could be a turtle shell. It could be a natural object. And the rule is just whoever's holding it, it's their turn to speak. So it both encourages people to speak who might not otherwise speak, and also practices that, like, when it's your turn with the turtle, whatever, you can speak and everybody else's job is to listen. How to assess an adult's ability to facilitate the launch of this. This is like the question of how to hire people at a democratic school. And the number one thing that I can see is that they have a deep love and respect for children. I think a deep love and respect for children and an ability to hold boundaries. So as a facilitator, you're holding the boundaries of the meeting. We agreed the meeting will be 15 minutes. 15 minutes is up, we're stopping the meeting. And if you're unable to hold those kind of boundaries and the rules and the culture of the group, then you might not be ready. Then I didn't quite follow the evaluation part. Is this after the proposal has been received consent and then been tested out in practice? Yes. So the idea is change at meeting number 1, you generate all these proposals. Change at meeting number 2, you evaluate, and then you can either tweak the proposals, make new proposals, look at new problems, look at old problems, whatever. Any more questions before we jump into the meeting? Because I'm excited. Yay, we're halfway through. And other questions about the meeting, questions about anything can be covered in the Q&A at the end. So I'm going to share my screen again. For today's change up meeting, the domain is this workshop. So the question is, what's happening in the workshop? It could be a problem, it could be an opportunity for something that you could see that could be improved. And we're going to go through these and try to generate sticky notes one at a time. So you can either raise your hand and Ted can tell you to unmute, or you can put questions in the chat. I would actually love to hear people's voices. So if you're willing to speak out loud, that would be amazing.
I've got a problem, I guess.
Go for it.
Okay. I noticed earlier when you stopped screen sharing so that we could answer questions in chat, the questions had been on the screen you were sharing and then we couldn't see them anymore. So I guess the problem is, like, if we're answering questions, but we can't see the questions.
Cool. All right. Any other problems or opportunities people see?
Hey, Hope.
Hey, Crystal.
An opportunity is people are wondering where to buy the book, and I know that's coming, but that's one of them.
Awesome. one more problem or opportunity, and you can make it, this is feedback for me too, like the next time I offer a workshop, so don't be shy. If you're like, it was long and boring, or Hope is talking too much, I can take it. I always try to make 1 or 2 mistakes during a workshop so we have something to work with. All right, if nobody else sees this, I would say Hope is the person talking. There's not an opportunity for connecting between participants. You can just nod if you see that problem or opportunity. All right, next, needs. So what needs do you see related to when we stopped screen sharing, questions that had been on the screen were not being seen anymore? It could be Katie, like what needs are you experiencing related to this?
I need to be able to remember the questions that I'm answering in the chat. Or know what questions I'm answering.
And does this mean questions that I'm asking you?
Yeah.
For clarity? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, specifically, I think you asked what like groups people are working with and what domains. But then there are 3 questions and then they weren't there anymore when you stopped screen sharing.
Cool. Next, people are wondering where to buy the book. What need are you experiencing? And it could be Crystal, it could be somebody else, if you agree with this.
So that was my note in the chat, and I just always hope that there's possibly a way to not buy your book from Amazon.
Awesome.
Or even not from Amazon as well.
Yeah.
So buy not from Amazon. I didn't take that note correctly. And it seems like also the need to have for information.
Yeah, just your preferred place of where we would buy it.
Cool.
Just wanting to honor your work.
Awesome. I like that. So like respect. Then last one, Hope is the person talking. There's not an opportunity for connection between participants. What needs, is anybody experiencing this need? And if you are, speak up.
A particular need that might not be met is the need for engagement and connection.
Awesome. Looks like we've got some good needs and.
Hold on, I see it. Oh, Mike, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I guess, yeah, I haven't done any work with children for a long time. I've just had a baby and I've got nieces and nephews, and I just hadn't connected Sociocracy to children. So I guess that, yeah, not understanding where I might sit in understanding, if there's other people who are maybe in a similar position. So I guess, I don't know what need that is information, I guess, again, isn't it?
Awesome. Cool. Now it's time for proposal making. So usually I do a round, but there's like way too many people here. Just maybe I'll take 3 or 4 people's ideas. If you can call on people, Ted. How can we meet the need, being able to remember questions when we stop screen share? The questions had been on the screen and we're not seeing them anymore. Jill.
Have a proposal. I guess if you know that Katie is going to be answering the questions, you can send them to her ahead of time.
All right, send them to people ahead of time. Any other ideas?
Patty?
The questions could be put in the chat so that people could refer back.
Cool. Any other ideas? Maybe one more idea.
Could you pin I don't know if this software exists, but you could kind of like pin it on your display or on the side of the screen somewhere, so it's just always there. I think one of the other Twitch does that, doesn't it? I don't know.
Cool. Then I'm gonna do the consent round after we do check-in questions. So let's go ahead and do check-in questions for this one, and then we'll do a consent round. Then we'll move on to the next proposal. How will we know if this is working? How will we know the needs are being met? And I guess the question is kind of like, is X happening?
Yeah, are the questions being answered?
More people participate as you see the chat. Okay, clarity and joy. However, we're going to measure that.
Cool. So we've got a good list of check-in questions. So I'm going to ask, is it, with all of these ideas, same proposal, sending them to people ahead of time, putting questions in the chat, and pinning on Hope's display, do we have consent to this proposal for the next time a question comes up? And that's thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs sideways. All right, if you have thumbs down, I'll call on you, starting with Katie. And I can't see everybody, Ted, so we might need to spread out. So Katie, what's your objection?
First, a clarifying question. So the proposal is to do all three of these things every time there's questions?
Yes.
So, okay, my objection is that seems like a lot of work and probably overkill, especially at like figuring out how to pin it on your display. You might have to use a different software to do that. Like,
do you have a suggested amendment that would could consent
yeah,
to?
I would amend just putting the questions in the chat, because everybody's answering the questions in the chat, so we know that they have access to it.
All right, I'm doing it. I'm amending the proposal. With this amendment, just putting questions in the chat, can you consent? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Seeing lots of
thumbs up, but no thumbs down that I see.
Awesome. We will put the questions in the chat and see how that goes. Next up, people are wondering where to buy the book. Our needs are wanting to buy it not from Amazon, information, wanting to respect me as an author, respect Sofa as a publisher. Proposal, how can we solve this problem?
We could tell them.
Any other, and do you want to do that right now, Ted? We should consent to the proposal first before we do this. That would be too preemptive. Any other additions other than just we could tell you, Katie?
I think links would be helpful. Maybe an email afterwards with links if they're not available now.
Awesome. Checking questions. How will we know this is successful? Oh, one more idea. Yes.
One more idea is about because I'm in the UK. So yeah, how we could make sure we're buying not on Amazon, even when we're in the UK or Europe.
Cool. So kind of instructions on how to buy internationally. Awesome. It's important information. So yeah, how will we know this is successful? What are our measurements?
Ted doesn't get any emails about where to buy the book because it's clear.
Any other ways we'll know? Is there a way we could know by the end of the workshop that this is working?
We could all agree to buy the book where you tell us to buy it.
Okay, yeah, I'll just leave that. I'll say there's no contract. You're not contractually obligated to buy the book just because you came to this meeting. But if you buy the book. There, if I put if in there. I think this is good questions. So we could tell you with links and an email afterward to remind you. We will include information on how to buy and instructions for international buyers. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, go. Oh, I see a thumbs down. I love objections. I can't see your name, but go ahead.
Excuse me. The requiring that people buy it from a place doesn't follow the what's happening needs and proposal. That was a suggestion that we have that option. And then I want to buy it not from Amazon, but the answer to that doesn't follow what we've tracked so far. The having information shouldn't require that people buy it from somewhere else. And our proposal did that.
What would you amend?
I think that's what it said.
Agree of buying this part.
Yeah, I would take that out unless we have to change what came before that, or that doesn't fit for me.
Okay, boom. It's more like you have the option to buy it where we ask you to, but you could buy it from wherever if you wanted to, wherever it's available. So with that amendment, do we have consent? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. I am not seeing any thumbs down. If you see any on the next page, Ted, tell me. Yay, we have consent. Last but not least, hope is the person talking. There's not opportunity for connection. We want engagement, connection, information. How can we resolve this problem? Reminder that thumb sideways is I consent. I don't have strong feelings about it either way. Like it's within my range of tolerance. I can tolerate this. It's good enough. It's safe enough, but I don't really like it.
One proposal is that we could have used more breakout room sessions to harvest questions about the information you presented.
Awesome. Any other ideas?
That information would have, I would assume, would have been sent out to participants before our Zoom meeting started. That way participants had time to prepare.
And is this info about connection between participants or about questions they would ask, or what's this info about?
I guess in my head, I thought about it'd be information about just like preparing to connect to participants.
Right.
You could have example questions to ask each other. That might be a good way to facilitate.
I see Jill's hand. Once Joseph is done.
Yeah, I guess this is sort of a question and a proposal. What happens in a situation like this if nobody else thinks it's a problem? And what if I propose no change is needed? Because we're learning from you.
You could make a counter proposal. I guess it would be a matter of, can you consent to what we suggest? So I guess I would wait and have that as an objection. Like, I don't think this is necessary. And I have seen that objection happen in a meeting this week. Somebody objected, I don't think we need this proposal, and the proposal was dropped. So it does happen. Cool. I'm going to leave it at that. How do we know it's successful? Yes, always consent to dropping a proposal. Yeah, because the proposal to drop the proposal is a new proposal. So make sure you get consent to it. So anybody can unmute. Tell me, how would we know this is working? How would we know the engagement and connection is happening? Or how would we know these needs are being met, the problem is being solved?
Yeah, maybe with some feedback after the meeting.
Awesome.
Who was also speaking? Oh, there, Charlie Monica.
I think that I was thinking about people sharing reactions in the chat, sharing how they're feeling, if they're enjoying, just expressing in the chat.
Cool. So, are there any objections? And I'm telling you, we're actually going to do this. Surprise, surprise, the next 15 minutes of the meeting, we're going to do some of this stuff. To use more breakout room sessions to harvest questions about the info presented and have questions to ask each other before we do that in the breakout room. So I'm amending this because I can't go back in time, but we can proceed from now into the future. And then we'll ask for feedback after the meeting to share reactions in the chat, how people are feeling, to see if their needs are being met. Any objections? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Seeing a lot of people thinking. I'm not seeing any thumbs down, so that's good. All right, so right now, Ted, if you can share the link, drum roll please, of where people can pre-order the book.
It is here. And I want to also, well, yeah, drum roll and hold on, confetti. Do you want to stop sharing so I can throw confetti? My confetti that I bring only for these purposes. I want to say a word about distribution and international distribution. The way this works is you can order from us. You can pre-order now, and then as soon as it's really just orderable, we will send it out. That way, you don't support Amazon, but you support Sofa. And that will always be the, I mean, for now, that is always the case that one can order through us. That's also true for all of our books right now. And I want to give you peace of mind that if you order through us and you're in the UK or somewhere else, the way this works is that we basically order it and have it be sent to you, and there's actually a printer in the UK that would then print it, so it does not get shipped over the ocean, which I like that thought a lot. A little tricky is Latin America's, yeah, South America is a little tricky to do, but all the other things we can basically handle. And what else is there to say? Timing. Timing on shipping things. We just did the math today because there's a little bit of something and there's always a little bit of delay. I'm guessing that we will have the books to send out, let's say, in 10 or 14 days, so then add a little bit of shipping time to your house. That is a conservative calculation, but maybe also accurate. I don't know, something like that. Ebooks, of course, are done pretty much instantly once we set them.
All right, thanks, Ted. Now I'm going to send, or Ted's going to send everybody into breakout rooms. And in the breakout room, the person with the name with the letter to the closest to A in the alphabet will facilitate. Each person take a turn and ask a question that you want to ask in the Q&A. Then if one person can write all those down, and we'll put them in the chat when you come back. And let's give people like 3 minutes, Ted.
The whole group 3 minutes, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that. Well, I'm giving it a second because people are dropping off, and then I will throw off the groups. Okay. 3 minutes, prompt is clear, sending people off. What, yeah, I think we need the prompt repeated.
Yep. The person with the name closest to A facilitates, and the prompt is questions for the Q&A right afterward, gathering questions and reactions for Q&A.
Welcome back.
All right, can drop questions in the chat and I will do my bestest to answer them in 6 minutes. And I want to also say that the room can stay open after the call. If you want for additional schmoozing, etc., I'll be available. All right, first question, choice of workshops. Looking for problems within the workshop was kind of meta and it was hard to engage. Why not have a hypothetical scenario with kids? I found that people get even more detail oriented with hypothetical scenarios than with real scenarios, and that they're worried about like, what group of kids is it? And how big is the room we're in? And, you know, things like that. So instead of spinning out into hypotheticals, I wanted to keep it very limited, also to give you the experience of being the person coming up with the proposal and solving the problem, so that hopefully you could facilitate it, but have that knowledge of what it feels like to be in the experience. How to introduce with 1 to 4-year-olds in the family. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. That's really simple, clear. I like it, I don't like it. And a lot of times kids have a hard time identifying their needs in a situation. I find that the thumbs down often connects to a need. So trying to listen for that, like if a kid is drawing on the wall, they might need to express themselves. If they're running around and being disruptive, they might need to run around. You know, if they're yelling, they might need to be loud. So respecting those needs while coming up with solutions that work for everybody. Are there occasions when an adult might be a partner to a child participant in a meeting? Absolutely. Kids with special needs, kids who are quiet, just partnering up with an adult can work. Screenshots of the presentation. Yes, I think we have everybody's emails, right, Ted? So we can send out the slides and I can send out a screenshot of the Miro board with all your little sticky notes on it. How would you get the book in Argentina, Ted?
You would not believe how long that question has been haunting us. It's so hard, distribution. We're working on it. And literally, actually, the next meeting I have is the soccer that is trying to figure that out. So ebooks for now as we figure it out.
All right, how do you assess whether adults are ready to use sociocracy, let alone with children? Super hard question. Really a culture of consent and a commitment to doing it, a commitment to unpacking authoritarian structures, and deep respect for people's humanity. When using talking objects, how do we resolve excitement of other kids who do not want it and have it? Just basic teacher skills. It's not your turn. I can see you really, really want it. Validation. But you need to wait your turn. Boundaries. How do you start integrating sociocracy in your children's groups? Buy the book. How might this be part of training videos? To be continued. I'm developing videos for the website at SOFA, and also you can book me as a trainer and consultant because you have so many questions and I would love to spend time with you. You get a free 30-minute session to ask me whatever questions you want via my website, and you can book me at calendly.com/HopeWilder, which I just put in the chat. I'm not going to be able to answer all these questions. It makes me really sad.
What's your website?
My website is wildertraining.com. Awesome. Thank you, Katie. How do we introduce sociocracy to a mainly adult group that have never heard in it in a gentle way that doesn't shock them and without mandating a training? I'm going to ask Ted, actually.
I'll throw an article into the chat because you're not the first person to wonder about that. There's an article that's called 3 tools you can use from Sociocracy right away, even without having to, like, you can just basically do them in your next meeting without going through a big process.
All right, how do you introduce sociocracy to kids in a system in which kids have been accustomed to an authoritarian system where adults, they can't trust the adults are going to hear what they have to say, being trustworthy, and it takes a long time to build trust, listening, validating, mirroring, being trustworthy is the only thing I can say. And why the Dutch school doesn't use sociocracy anymore, the founders left and then died, and there wasn't a champion to carry the torch on. And I've seen that happen in a lot of schools. It is time. I want to ask the question for evaluation. Did you get your needs met? And if not, you can stay on the call to do a little bit more networking, schmoozing, etc. So were the needs met about finding out how to buy the book? Thumbs up. Down, sideways. Awesome. Were your needs met for connecting? I saw Mari does not have, we'll get to you, Mari, about the book. Connection, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. A lot of thumbs sideways because that was really just generating questions. Yeah, we didn't connect as much as possible. The time was too short. And needs met about questions is kind of obsolete because I guess did putting the questions to ask in the group in the chat help? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Awesome. So Mari has a problem. Go for it, Mari.
It's I moved from up to down. It's just I realized that I bought the book online, the soft cover, and the shipping is to Brazil. But I managed to go through the process and bought the book. But now I'm wondering if it will arrive in Brazil.
That is an excellent question. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you, Ted. It can take as long as it needs to take. I'm good.
All right, that is it for our time. If you need to go, thank you and goodbye, and best of luck deciding with children, with each other, building a better world, a better future, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Hope.
Thank you.
And Ted.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.